you're doing good. So, welcome back to my channel. And yes, today we will be talking about all the interview questions that were asked at Accenture. So, I gave this interview around 2 years back for a management consulting role. And those who don't know me, my name is Anjali Redwal. I work as a management consultant. So yes, talking about interviews. So my interview was actually happened in 2 rounds. One round was basically consist of the manager. The interview was with the manager, and other interview was with the senior manager once I got shortlisted from the manager interview. So both of the interviews mainly consisted of three parts. First, there was a personal information round where you talk about your work ex, you talk about what you have done for qualifications and everything. And the next round actually talks about the management consulting questions. They can ask you about all the product management questions, all the frameworks and all the case studies that are involved. And the last round was a technical kind of a round where they asked me a lot of Salesforce questions because I belong to Salesforce. My area of work is Salesforce, but they asked me about a lot of Salesforce questions. I will discuss all these three parts one by one, and I've also added some more questions from my other interviews so that we don't miss anything. And this would be the only video that you will require to prepare for your interview. So if you're ready, let's get started. Alright, so like every interview, everybody knows about it that the first question that comes up in any interview is tell me about yourself. So this question actually can be answered in two ways. Either you can give a summary of your CV. You can tell what have you done, what qualifications have you done, what work ex you have, what did you do when you were in the job. And you can, if you want, you can add some hobbies, some certification details in your answer, and etc. So the other way is that you can tell your story, or you can tell about yourself in a story manner where you can just take yourself from the birth. You tell your name, you tell where you come from, where did you opt for your specific graduation, if you have done a BSc, BTech or whatever. And if you have done an MBA, so why did you opt for an MBA? What did you do after MBA? How did you get your first job? What did you do in your first job? And etc. So actually the second way is more preferred because it actually gives an opportunity to the interviewer to ask more questions, and it also looks very interactive and emotionally intelligent. So I would prefer the second way for my own interviews, I would say. So yeah. In this question, you will be asked about how your day-to-day job looked like when you were working in the past company. And in my case, I worked as a business analyst in a Salesforce company. So I told them about that I used to create user stories, I took client interviews, I took discovery calls, I handled Jira, Excel, a lot of softwares that I used, I stated them. So I also told them about that I collaborated with the testing team and dev team to resolve the issues with the stakeholders and presented them. So yes, whatever your roles and responsibilities were, you can state that. I would suggest that whatever softwares and important frameworks that you use, you just slip in to your answer so that it looks more impressionable and it looks more impactful. So this question actually came up because of my previous work experience. I worked as a business analyst, so they asked me this question: what were the challenges you faced as a business analyst? But they can ask you a similar question based on your previous work experience. If you're a product manager, or you were a simple developer, or a quality assurance guy, they can ask you what were the challenges you faced based on your role. So yes, so in this question they are actually trying to understand if you can handle the team, if you can solve their social problems and issues. So this is their whole agenda. So while answering these questions and you're letting them know about your problems faced, I would also suggest that you also convey the measures that you took while solving the problems and how you solved the issues. So in my case, I actually told them that it was quite challenging for me saying no to the clients when they come up with new requirements that are out of scope. But as an improvement, I also realized that if I align the stakeholders with the project timelines and the in-scope requirements while also analyzing the amount of efforts it will take for the change, the client become actually quite supportive of the decision, and they can make further decision if they want to change the sprint duration or they want to decommission the whole change. So with these questions, they had a lot of general sub questions as well. For example, how many projects you were in, how big was the team, how long was the duration of the project, and etc. etc. Since I was in a technical role, so it is very common to ask the SDLC, Salesforce Development Life Cycle, and it will be always better that you tell the latest Agile one. It has multiple stages: define, design, develop, test, release, and review. Define being where you create the user stories, you capture all the requirements, then it goes for the design where you architect how it will look into the system, and then it is developed, it is tested for the quality assurance, and then it is released so that the client can review it and test it out themselves. So yes, this was the Agile SDLC life cycle. Find a lot of definitions around the internet about agile, what is scrum, and how it is different from waterfall. But just to give you a little summary, agile is basically a very incremental process where you divide or fragment the entire project into small fragments that are called sprints, and each sprint will go under every stage of the SDLC life cycle. Okay, so there will be design for every sprint, there will be define and test and develop for every sprint basically. But when we talk about waterfall, it's kind of a linear process where you complete the project in one go. You just focus on one particular stage at one time, and then once that stage is completed, you just move towards the next stage, and so on and so forth. So this is how waterfall works. And in current times, agile is the most preferred because it's quite iterative, it's quite incremental. If there are more requirements coming, you can complete it in a more managed and processed way. So yes, agile. So root cause analysis is basically a problem identifying technique where you analyze the entire situation and you try to find out what can be the root cause of that particular problem. So in my case, I was asked a case study, a question that there is a apparel company and there is a winter section of the children's section, and it is seeing a decline of around 30%. So what can be the root cause of that particular problem, why they are facing this decline? So to identify why and what can be the reason of that particular problem, we just carry out this framework called root cause analysis. So I will not tell you more about root cause analysis on this particular video, but I can tell you one video that really helped me when I was learning it in the initial stages. So on the same problem, they also asked me a guesstimate questions. So my question was, on the same problem, they asked me that the same company want to launch a women apparel section, and what can be the sales of it, is it a good idea or is it not a good idea? So this was my question. So if you are trying to give this interview, you may need to try a lot of guesstimate exercises which can enhance your data analysis ability. So a BA's main responsibility to actually create the requirements and make sure that the delivered solution satisfies all the requirements that were taken in the start of the project. And if something goes out of hand or out of scope, the BA is held responsible, guys. So yes, if I talk about the life cycle, it generally involves creating requirements, taking client interviews, and then you present it, you review it yourself, the delivered solution, and then you present it to the clients. video got too long, so please follow for part 2 if you want to see what were the Salesforce questions that were asked to me. And talking about interviews, after giving so many interviews, I have realized, I have figured out that it's not about that you've got to be perfect or speak the most complicated jargons in your interview. The basic agenda is that you should know what you're saying, and the interviewer should not be confused with your answers. You be very confident, be very sure of what you're saying, be very crisp, use a lot of data to back your answers, and you will get through it. So until next time, all the very best.